Day right here at Look Up TV. Thank you very much for choosing to begin your day with us right here from the capital of the country. Is it the capital of the country? Yes, it is. No, the capital of the country, yes. That is Nairobi, Kenya. My name is Simbalaja Charles Kiage. It is the 16th of September, 2025. Thank you very much again for making time. We are online on Look Up TV across all your social media platforms, streaming live as well on our channels. That is on YouTube at Look Up TV, on Facebook at Look Up TV. Once you're there, a subscription and like is only all that we ask about. We do have a jam-packed session for you today. This week, we've been speaking about climate and climate change. This morning, let me just give you a teaser of the conversations that we're going to have this morning. It's essentially about where we are as a country in terms of a green and renewable energy. We do know that as a country, we're the leading ones in this conversation. We have more than 90% of our electricity that's generated from sources like geothermal and hydro. That means that indeed we are leaders when it comes to clean energy in the region. This morning then, we talk about Africa's renewable future, especially Kenya's future, and green hydrogen, climate, finance and policy as a conversation that we're going to get into this morning. So please get your pens and papers out for those people who want to ask questions about where we are as a country as regards this particular conversation. Then you do know exactly what to do as of when we get into that conversation. Just as always then, let's see exactly what it is that you're waking up to this morning in terms of your dailies. And I will start with the Daily Nation this morning so that we see exactly what headlines that they are carrying here today. They're saying it's a campaign podium. It's actually a question that I asked myself. And I will start like this. Have you visited State House? Yeah, as a Kenyan citizen. Have you? If you have not, then I think it's time that you start asking questions on how you can get to visit State House, because that's your house. You fund it, you control it, and if it's a house that you've built by yourself, it also makes sense that you visit it. So this morning, the Daily Nation is talking about this story on how the State House now is currently getting used as a campaign podium by one president, Dr. William Ruto. All right? Let me just give a couple of the delegations that have been hosted at the State House. Number one, Border team. That is on August 1st. That's just last month. On 2nd, Nairobi Youth. On 3rd, Nyamira and Kisii leaders visited the president at State House. On 4th, Meru leaders. On 5th, Korea West and Korea East. All right. On September 2nd, Turkana leaders. September 7th, Kisii leaders also had a rematch at State House. September 12th, Murang'a leaders. I was told this word is Murang'a leaders, so I should pronounce it correctly. Murang'a leaders. All right. On September 13th, 10,000 teachers. That was just the day this weekend, isn't it? 3 days ago. 10,000 teachers also visited State House. It's the very first time that we're seeing this kind of visits actually happen at State House. Former presidents have never gotten into this kind of State House visitations. That's why I started by asking you this morning, have you ever visited the State House? Probably it's time you should also think about visiting the State House then. Yeah? But the reason as to why these visits are conducted is what the Daily Nation is talking about this morning. That State House is now getting used as a campaign podium. All right, here's the kicker then. President Ruto has opened State House gates to delegations from across the country, explaining the meetings with diverse interest groups are intended to resolve their grievances and let them have a say in governance. But critics counter that seat of power has been turned into a platform for partisan political campaigns amid queries as to the source of the millions being doled out. to their attendees. That story has been covered on page 4 and 5. And I do remember, was it last month? Yes, on August 2nd, on August 1st, sorry, when the border team visited State House and they were promised bikes. Some of them came out crying, saying that they never saw the bicycles that they were promised at State House under the Youth Empowerment Program between 1st and 2nd of August 2025. Do you think that the president is using State House as a campaign podium? You can talk to us and Look Up TV across all your social media platforms, and you want to read this story, then you have to jump all the way to page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Good. Crisis in public universities at dawns set to strike. Page 6 as well. And by the way, we've been talking about university strikes in the country for quite a long time now. I mean, there's no year that ends that we don't get to talk about the planned strikes in public universities. Looks as if there is another one headed their way, just as they started their new sanctions in those public universities. That story has been covered on page 6. A couple of grievances that some of these dons are crying over. It's in terms of their salaries, working terms, conditions, and some MOUs that were signed to prior in their other strikes that have not been respected to date. How this goes, just for us to see whether the freshmen who just joined university just the other day being met by what is the norm in a higher learning institution in the country, as dons also now plan to down their tools. That story has been covered on page 6 of the Daily Nation. Good. On page 7, you're going to read about how TSC new plan to end junior school tough wars. Just as we have been talking about the new curriculum, you can see how it's when we're really trying to figure it out. It looks as if TSC has to really read into this. There are a lot of wrangles in how the junior school, all right, housing in high schools, if that makes sense from what I'm saying this morning, has been a conversation for quite some time now. Looks like TS is coming in. You're going to read that story on page 7. And on page 3, there's a story here that is titled "In the Footsteps of Kwabi Zaro Cult Victims." You're going to read that story on page 3 this morning. That's it on the Daily Nation. Let's then cross over to the Standard so that we can also see what they have for you. And we do expect that majority of the stories that we've covered on the Daily Nation are also going to appear heavily on the Standard. And this is the big story. It is the war against Matiang'i. That's the headline from the Standard this morning. And this is what the story talks about, that former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i's declaration 4 months ago that he will run for president in 2027 has clearly struck a nerve in President William Ruto's camp. Behind the scenes, a covert plan is in motion, with state machinery rolled out, senior civil servants flexing power, money, changing hands, and threats issued, all aimed at clipping Matiang'i's rising stature in Nyanza and across the country. That story has been covered on page 6 and 7. All right. So let's read some of the quotes that are coming from leaders in as regards Matiang'i's bid for presidency in 2027. This is Julius Ogamba, the education CS. "It's true, professionals from the Gusii community met. You can't threaten someone because of his or her political beliefs." These were top professionals from our community, that is education CS. And by the way, if you do remember, education CS was just recently appointed to that particular position by the president. So you'd expect that it has to speak the language of the president. And from what I see here, it looks as if he's not speaking the language of the president, and whether this is going to rub the president in the wrong way, it's just for us to wait and see how this goes down. And this is after there were fears that the Gusii community was having meetings, yeah? And do remember as well, if you looked at the Daily Nation this morning, the president actually met twice with leaders from the Kisii community at State House. So probably this would start to make sense then. Let's go on. This is Richard Onyonga, who's the Kisii senator, who's saying they are here every weekend, flying in a dozen helicopters, intimidating civil servants, bribing people in the realm of economic empowerment rallies. Where is the money coming from? That is Richard Onyonka, who's reading so much into the visits of the president's team in the Kisii region. Now, the Standard then this morning is reading that this is all in a bid to stop one Fred Matiang'i from going for that top seat in the country. Do you agree? Is it too much into the headline? Yeah? You can talk to us and Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. Let's also read another story here that is covered on page 5. Sleuths flying blind in city without CCTV. Despite millions sunk into the integrated urban surveillance system between 2012 and 2015, Nairobi has no working CCTV to capture real-time crime in the CBD and major roads. A week after lawyer Chalo Bombu, and I hope that I'm pronouncing that word correctly, is it Chalo or Kialo, was gunned down in a hail of bullets, detectives still have no solid leads and are left to hope and pray for good Samaritans to step forward. Whew. That's such a grim reality if this story is painting the real picture of what is going on in the CBD. But there are no working CCTV cameras in the CBD. So even as lawyer Kialo was gunned down in the CBD, so the detectives around this case are hoping that they would have witnesses to come on board and testify. Oof. Talk so much about how crime has been prevalent in the CBD as well. Yeah. If you did listen to that presser also by Nairobi County Governor Johnson Sakaja, also saying that he was going to clamp down on the rise of insecurity within the CBD. So if this story is anything go by, they're also working blindly because they're not covered by CCTV cameras within the CBD. Looks like we're alone in this one. Good. And on the Financial Standard this morning, there's a story here about how Kenya seeks key transport corridor to China. All right. Beijing will soon hold all the cuts in the management of virtually all projects under the Northern Transport Corridor, exposing some of the pitfalls of reliance on foreign funding of local infrastructure. That story has been covered on page 24 and 25 of the Standard this morning. Good. Let me then jump into the trends this morning before we jump into our big conversation. And I can see in the country this morning, you are talking about Fred Matiang'i, all right? Let me just read. Naomi Waithera was saying this morning that Matiang'i is giving them sleepless nights. Yeah. That's it. This is Kanyeve, also this morning, who is saying Kenyans want unity, all right? They bring division, that is the opposition circus, all right? And this is another trend for one Dr. Fred Matiang'i. All right, we continue this morning. I've got a tweet here from one Dr. Fred Matiang'i actually, who's saying that what Kenyans want or what Kenyans need is a trustworthy leadership. Say what you mean and mean what you say. It's long since we had a government that you could trust. All right? That's it. I've also got a very interesting headline here from People Daily under this Matiang'i trend that is saying how 5 camps plan to exploit Kenyans for 2027 vote. And here you can see the factions that are purported to be building up right now. Where we have Fred Matiang'i, Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa, Martha Karua. Over the other side, we do have Raila Odinga, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Kithure Kindiki. All right. But on top of that, on those two sides that I've read, there is one Rigathi Gachagua and there is one William Ruto under the broad-based government. Currently, as it is, the opposition is being led by one Rigathi Gachagua. That's according to this headline right here by the Daily Nation. Interesting times, because we do know what opposition is essentially in an election. It is people lose an election, isn't it? Those are the ones who officially become an opposition. But in the country, that essentially is not happening, because Raila Odinga is in the broad-based government with one Dr. William Ruto. That's it. Kiongozi here is saying, do you know that Uhuru Kenyatta has never endorsed Fred Matiang'i for 2027? No rallies, no statements, no political appearances together. Quite an interesting observation right there. That's it. Just this morning, let me end it with a quote by one Clovis Malala this morning under this trend of saying the unity built on shaky foundations will always collapse under the weight of expectation. By fronting leaders who lack both the vision and vitality to inspire a new generation, the so-called United Front exposes itself as nothing more than an alliance of convenience, not conviction. That's exactly what Clovis Malala is talking about this morning in as regards this trend under Matiang'i this morning. Good. I can see KDF is trending as well this morning, and we do know why they're trending. Let me just read for you the official statement from Kenya Defence Forces this morning. Kenya Defence Forces is pleased to announce to the public the 2025 recruitment drive. Get more details on the link below. That's actually on their official X page. And they're saying this morning they're looking for General Service Officer, GSU, Cadet, Regular, General Service Officer, GSO, Cadet, Graduate, Specialist Officers, General Duty recruits, tradesmen and women, Defense Forces Constables, okay? And they're saying the recruitment will take place in the month of October 2025. Click to get more details. So the question is, have you applied to be part of the recruitment process? Yeah, I see a lot of stories here about the experiences the majority of Kenyans have gone through when they've gone to the recruitment drive. Let me just read one tweet here by my friend Pizza, all right, who's asking Kenyans this morning, can you kindly give us some of the stories that you've gone through during your wish to join KDF, okay? And this is the funniest one. Shows you how tough things are. So I've got one tweet here from Juma who's saying, and I will read it in Kiswahili. Hii mambo ya KDF si ya zani. Tulikuwa kwa line after tumemaliza kukimbia na nikakuwa number 1. Tukaingia ndani ya room. Huko nje walikuwa nafanyia AK47 service. Wakapiga risasi moja. Mimi na ujinga wangu nikaingia chini ya meza. Nikaambiwa kijana enda nyumbani. Yes, if you also have funny stories about your the drive to join the Kenya Defence Forces in the country from the previous ones, you can talk to us as well at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. There's just so much that we're going to talk about this morning. So thank you very much for choosing to begin with us. Let me then tell you exactly what it is that we're going to talk about this morning in our conversation. It's all about Africa's renewable future and green hydrogen, climate finance and policy. And also, you gotta know that 90% of the electricity that we use in the country is actually electricity generated from clean sources like geothermal and hydro. Good. That's one thing that you gotta know, meaning that we're actually the leading in terms of green energy in the country. Also, the continent holds 60% of the world's best solar resources, but only has installed 1% of global solar capacity. All right. Africa also receives less than 3% of the global climate finance. It's a conversation that we're having yesterday as well on this particular show. We're going to touch on it as well. And if you look at green hydrogen, it's projected to reach $80 billion in Africa by 2035. So the question is whether policy, finance, and innovation can align fast enough to unlock these opportunities where we do find ourselves as a continent. Fantastic. We take a tiny breather right here on the Morning Drift. Once we come back, I'll be introducing the guest who's joining us this morning for this conversation so that we can get right into talking issues, Africa's renewable future, green hydrogen, climate finance, and policy. Good morning. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. See you on the other side of the break.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Look Up, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu, kwa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza alikuwa na ria wasi wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hao sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi mazuri.
Mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
People are there to belittle you. When people are questioning you,
if you don't move fast, of course, yes, you lose it, but then it's not us to push you.
But you do not know the God who has been molding me. What has he been doing to me?
The deep and mature conversations of empowerment for you with a curious mind and an appetite for oriented conversations.
I concur with what you're saying.
You plan your finances, you can easily live without a debt.
An engaging safe space of free expression and truthfulness with an upheld vibrance, motivation and happiness.
So many children who are there, they are not living their dreams.
Join us for deep conversations with Zipporah Gashushe every Saturday from 8 p.m. The Deeper Conversations on Look Up TV.
I recall the doctor telling me that day, he said, Sarah, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but you see, life happens. You would have to learn to work with your hands, depend on your hands more.
And today, if you're going through anything, that you do not understand, just call on this name, Jesus, and he will save you.
I realized I love music when I was about 7 or 8. I used to puff my cheeks and play the 12-bar blues. Like I'd walk around the house doing like...
Why do we need the Holy Spirit?
I mean, if you look at what Jesus said when he was leaving, he said he is going and that he will send the Holy Spirit as our helper.
So God knows everything since the end, from the beginning, has a plan for your life. So to find that plan for your life, you must find God. When you find God, you will know the path for your life.
How easy is it for you to forgive someone who has hurt you? How easy is it? What are some tips, a person can apply to improve their public speaking skills?
We all have personality lazy somewhere around us.
In my mind, whenever I'm invited for a public speaking event, I don't like to put a lot of, accessories or too many colors.
What are the major things to look out when choosing a school for a child?
Another cheesy conversation starter is, men do this a lot. They look familiar. Have we met before? No. We met in Nobody is buying that line again.
No, we don't. We don't buy it anymore.
People are there to belittle you. When people are questioning you,
If you don't move fast, of course, yes, you lose it, but then it's not us to push you.
but you do not know the God who has been molding me, what has he been doing to me?
The deep and mature conversations of empowerment for you with a curious mind and an appetite for oriented conversations.
I concur with what you're saying. You plan your finances, you can easily live without a debt.
An engaging safe space of free expression and truthfulness with an upheld vibrance, motivation and happiness.
So many children who are there, they are not living their dreams.
Join us for deep conversations with Zipporah Gashushe every Saturday from 8 p.m. The Deeper Conversations on Look Up TV.
Do you need a dose of hope? If so, you are in the right place. We think of ourselves around here as hope dealers, delivering truth, power, and inspiration to hearts and minds all over the world. If nothing else has worked for you, why not give the God thing a try? For it's in the presence of God that you'll find everything that you need. Amen.
Save a Life is a non-profit organization that has taken the front line in transforming lives in the entire country. So far, we have transformed life of over 100,000 people through our programs, which include medical support, youth empowerment, street family program, feeding program, and climate change. Join us today as we transform lives. As we always say, service to humanity is service to God. Save a life, transforming lives.
Welcome back to Look Up TV. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. In case you are just joining us, we are online at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. Talk to us. Just what we talk back to you as well. The WhatsApp numbers are right there on your screen in case you want to just say hi and also talk to the guest that I'm going to introduce shortly. You have a right to do so, and we do appreciate that. So let's jump into our conversation this morning. And this morning, it's a numbers conversation, and I like topics that essentially begin with numbers, because from there then it's a bit easier for you to get a proper grip on where we are as a continent and a country in as regards the topic that we're talking about this morning. And we talk about Africa's renewable future. And we're talking about green hydrogen, climate finance, and policy around renewable energy. Fantastic, then. Let me just give you these numbers. That as we stand here today, Kenya is already a continental leader in renewable energy, with more than 90% of its electricity generated from clean sources like geothermal and hydro. And I do remember, was it some time last year when the president actually went to a climate summit? I can't remember what it was, and he actually did say that we are close to 100%. They said we're more than 90% close to green energy. There was a lot of uproar in the country, but you see, numbers do not lie, because majority of the electricity that we get in the country, which is also used to serve majority of households, it is green energy generated from clean sources like geothermal and hydro. But yes, across Africa, the picture is uneven. The continent holds 60% of the world's best solar resources, but has only installed 1% of global solar capacity. At the same time, Africa receives less than 3% of global climate finance, even as it faces some of the world's most severe climate risks. With global investment in green hydrogen projected to reach up to 80 billion. All right, global investment in the green hydrogen. These numbers are for Africa in 2035, and in dollars. The question is whether policy, finance, and innovation can align enough to unlock these opportunities. And to help us then get into this conversation this morning, we are joined by an author and a renewable energy expert in the studio this morning, who is Titus Ngeno. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine.
Happy to have you around. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
You were here last in 2023. That's 2 years down the line. Yeah, hopefully you didn't get lost on your way here.
Yeah, I didn't.
Fantastic. Let's jump into it then. It's a numbers conversation. And for me, when I talk about this, and by the way, you come in at a proper time. Even yesterday, we were talking about climate change and the effects of climate change. Some of these conversations is actually a continuation of what we were talking about yesterday. So let's talk about it. If you look at where we are in Africa, we have over 600 million people without electricity. That is according to IEA. And this report comes from 2023. This happens despite us having more than 60% of the world's best solar resources. But if you look at the production output that we're getting out of this, it is just 1% of the global solar capacity. So the question is, why is Africa energy poor despite being resource rich? Titus.
Let me just say that Africa is not resource poor. It's only policy poor.
Yes.
Because we have a lot of renewable energy resources.
Yes.
And when you look at the installed capacity of the solar plants in Africa,
yes,
we have only utilized like 1% of the renewable energy resources that is in solar. And the mismatch is that we have the resources, but we don't have the capacity to utilize these resources. We have poor policy and weak grids, and also there is also poor infrastructure.
Yes.
And there is a reason to have an improved solar capacity in Africa by having a regional financial model that is now like with having the banks like Afri-Exim Bank and
yes,
African Green Bank. It's key in providing the required financial infrastructure to develop these renewable energy resources in Africa.
That's it.
Yes.
And Titus, we're going to talk about that on a bigger scale. But then, if we don't have the resources, and we do agree that we have 60% of the world's resources to produce clean energy, but we're only putting out 1% of the global output, it means that there's a lacking part. And we're going to look at some of the policies with you before we get done with this conversation this morning. But this is what the African Development Bank projects, that African nations need upwards of $90 billion annually in investments by 2030 to achieve this universal access. Make sure that every other person in Africa has electricity, has got some type of energy that they're using to run their day-by-day livelihoods. Does it start and end there, Titus, that it's just a financial reason as to why we've not unlocked this potential, as opposed to a policy reason?
Okay, let me just take you through the case scenario of the renewable energy investment in Africa.
Yes.
Let's look like a country like South Africa. So South Africa in 2022, they installed 3,000 megawatts in renewable energy investments.
That's it.
And these investments comes from the renewable energy, the policy they have, because they have managed to install, it's like now ×2 the Kenyan installed capacity, because the Kenyan installed capacity is at 3,334 megawatts.
That's it.
So the reason why South Africa is ahead in terms of the solar installation is because of the policy they have and the infrastructure. And also, you see investors look for a blended finance models. So their policies are able to attract investors in developing these renewable energy projects.
Yes.
Let's also look like a case study of Morocco. Morocco, they are developing a 580 megawatts solar project, solar complex, which is supplying like 90% of the country. As here in Kenya, we are having like 90% of renewable energy generation. And this scales up from hydropower at 800 megawatts. We have now increased the wind energy at 420 megawatts after the addition of the Kipeto 100 megawatts wind energy plant.
That's it.
And 120 megawatts in solar energy, because now recently we added 40 megawatt Malindi solar plant into the national grid. So it's basically about the framework, like the policy framework of the country, and ability to attract these climate financing projects, because now the climate finance and renewable energy finance projects are correlated, because these projects offset the carbon, because it's key in ensuring that we have a clean energy transition in Africa.
Yes.
Yes.
Then Titus, I guess the question then is going to be, I mean, what lessons can we learn from these lagging nations? And I was told to ask you this question directly this morning. Do you believe that Kenya will be classified among those nations that are lagging?
I believe that the narrative is a bit different, because Kenya, we are sourcing like 90% of renewable energy generation in the national grid.
That's it.
So we are slightly ahead. Kenya and Morocco is slightly ahead in leading in renewable energy generation. The reason is because our source of renewable energy comes from renewable energy sources like the hydro, geothermal, and wind energy, which we have the largest wind energy plant in Kenya. That is the 300 megawatts Lake Turkana wind power.
Yes.
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 And Morocco is leading in solar projects, because they have a 580 megawatt. It's called a solar complex. So currently Morocco is leading in highest capacity in generation of solar energy plant in Africa.
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty much. Let's keep on looking at more numbers this morning, because I think that's essentially why we're here this morning. This is what IRENA estimates Africa could produce up to 15 million tons of green hydrogen by 2035. That's according to their estimates. And they're saying that Namibia and Morocco are already advancing their pilot projects. So the question then is going to be, Titus, where does Africa stand globally in the green hydrogen race? And how can it avoid being just a raw exporter of hydrogen to Europe and Asia?
Yes, the key question is Africa being used to develop the green hydrogen because they have the resources. But now in the event of the developing these green hydrogen resources, they have to export as raw, because instead of converting this green hydrogen into fertilizers, which can be used locally, we need to have these industries of green hydrogen to drive, especially the steel industries. Green hydrogen is very important in driving the steel industries because of the power capacity.
Yes.
It can also be used in transportation of heavy fuel. When you compare the conventional fuels with the green hydrogen is very key in transporting, like heavy in machineries. Green hydrogen fuels can be used. But now Africa is being, like currently, we have that green hydrogen project in Namibia. It's $10 billion US dollars. In partnership with, I don't know, France, I'm not quite sure, but you see that project now will be, it will be the largest project in Africa. And also Morocco is partnering with Germany to develop another green hydrogen project. But now the issue is they are exporting these green hydrogen instead of converting this green hydrogen into fertilizer. Let's take a case of Kenya. Kenya, in 2023, the president launched the Kenya Green Hydrogen Strategy. And as we are speaking today, Kenya, we have a green hydrogen project in Naivasha. And that project is 1.2 megawatt. It's a solar project plus a green hydrogen. And that green hydrogen is being converted to ammonia as a fertilizer. So that fertilizer is fed directly into the soil, and they are using it as a fertilizer to grow cashew nuts in Naivasha. So I believe that is one of the key steps Kenya can look forward in making sure that they have more green hydrogen projects.
Yes.
But as we look in African perspective, Africa should focus more on developing their own industries. That is now the green hydrogen industries, and convert it to fertilizers so that even youths will be able to get jobs instead of exporting raw molecules.
That's it.
Yes.
Pretty much. But it's a good point that you are right there. I was looking at the countries that are leading in signing agreements with the African nations in as regards hydrogen. Number one, Germany. I can see Japan. Those are some of the ones that are leading in terms of signing agreements with the African nations. From where you sit this morning, Titus, here we are talking about nations exporting hydrogen as a raw material itself, as it is. Do you believe that we are still stuck with policies that are sort of exploitative, as it were? That even these countries that are currently signing MOUs with Japan and Germany, and I've seen some of them going into Morocco as well, specifically. Do you believe that we are at a point in Africa where we could also start negotiating properly when it comes to these energy deals that we're talking about here this morning?
So I believe that we need to have, like now, as we speak, each country is trying to partner with, we say, the global north.
Yes.
Yeah, they are trying to partner in developing these projects. And the reason is because one is that we lack inadequate infrastructure to develop these green hydrogen projects. So most of these projects are they involve a lot of investments, and we lack that financial infrastructure to develop these projects. So I believe that if we have a good, like now, you saw President championing for an African bank. Now it will be like now under the African Union.
Yes.
We have a regional bank that will be able to now assist in implementing some of these projects. It will be a good platform as a collective fund that will assist in ensuring that we have this clean energy transition in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What makes it a bit difficult for these countries that are signing MOUs with African nations to sort of sign an MOU that will see us develop that green hydrogen right here within the country? Do you believe that now is the time that organizations like the African Union need to be more active in also looking into some of these deals that these countries are signing with African nations that are leading in terms of resources in green hydrogen?
I believe they are already existing platforms. Let's take a case of now the United Nations framework from climate change.
Yes.
There is a subsidiary under the UNFCCC that we have a special body on technology advice and also all the developments that takes place in Africa.
That's it.
So that is as part of as climate change is concerned, but also these green hydrogen projects are correlated with ensuring that we have a clean energy transition and we reduce the global emission.
Yes.
But African countries signing MOUs with global north, now as being the global south, is because of the weak policies that we have, the inadequate infrastructure, and also the blended finance model that are not able to attract investments. So at the end of the day, Africa needs global north to ensure that we implement some of these projects.
That's it.
In Africa, yes.
It's a good thing that we just got done with COP28, which was seen as a convention that was supposed to give us a way forward from COP27, if you do remember.
Yes.
Every other person knows, sorry Titus, every other person knows that Africa contributes to, what, 4% of the global emissions. Here we are talking about how our African nations are lacking so much in financing on areas to deal with climate change and energy production, when you would think it would be very, very easy for them to get this financing going by some of the deliberations and what was passed from COP28. Why is it still a problem? Why is finance a problem when right here there's a proper opportunity for African nations to get what I like to call top dollar financing?
Yes, Africa having the resources, and now let's take a case even for like COP27,
yes,
which was in Egypt. At COP27, Africa managed to negotiate loss and damage fund that is at a cost of, was it 8.9 billion US dollars?
Yes.
So that loss and damage fund is will be directly, because now the effects of climate change are quite large when you consider agriculture, you consider water, you consider energy, and also fishing. Even there are several impacts of climate change.
That's it.
So, and the reason why I'm saying is that according to African Development Bank, Africa is supposed to spend around, I think, 277 billion annually. It's supposed to receive that amount annually. But you find that they get only 12%. That is around 30 billion USD dollars. And when you compare this logistics, it means that Africa needs a lot of funding from global north, which are higher emitters. And this funding, it's not free, right? We are supposed to get this funding as part of the carbon credits.
Yes.
But you find that this funding, they want to take over, like now, when you consider the carbon credits, they want to take like the forests, the land, it will be debt for climate change swap.
Yes.
Yeah.
So are you saying that it's working against African nations?
Yes, because we don't have platform to negotiate. We don't have that platform to negotiate. Instead of the negotiations that we are supposed to get this funding as carbon credits,
yes,
you find that the global north needs some swaps in form of land and even maybe take over forests. And that means now that funding, we need to have another platform to renegotiate, because we are not getting this financing for carbon credits.
Yes. Yes. Despite the successes that were drummed up after COP28, where people said, well, majority of nations had actually signed to support the carbon credits conversation. Titus, is it folly? Is it that African nations have failed to properly negotiate, or the platform is not there? You like to imagine that after COP28, there will be a proper platform for negotiations, Titus?
Yeah, I believe after the COP28, we had some positive impacts.
Yes.
Let me just say the figures, because Kenya, for instance, raised around $42 million. And this came from the 16 Saudi Arabian companies,
yes,
that paid for the carbon credits. So in short, Kenya raised $42 million. That was on 2023. Another case in Africa is Gabon. Gabon sold around $71 million of carbon credits in 2022.
Yes.
And another country is, I think, Nigeria, which sold like $100 million USD of carbon credits in 2022. And
yes,
that was after the COP27. Yes.
So those are small figures, isn't it? If you go by the $90 billion that is needed to finance that green energy conversation, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And I think we are moving in the right direction, since now recently you saw we have an act that is the Carbon Trading and Registry Act of 2023,
yes,
which was introduced, I think, to the Parliament. So I think that act will help in registry, especially now when we zero down to even Kenya as a country. We'll be having the National Registry at Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. And now there are 4 platforms where people will now benefit, starting from project developers, communities, and even county governments. So they will be getting a share. County governments will be getting a share of 30%. Mm-hmm. Project developers will be getting a share of also around 40%.
Yes.
And the local communities will be getting a share of 20% of these carbon credits.
Pretty much. Yes. Fantastic. I just want you to take a minute, respond to this, because we come back from a break, so we talk about it. I mean, even when we talk about energy, agriculture really becomes part of what Africa can potentially use this green energy under. Now let's say that in Africa, 60% of its workforce is within agriculture. But then we look at how much we lose out of our production. They say 20 to 30% is lost because of climate change issues. Do you think that green or renewable energy can actually change some of these numbers that we're talking about here this morning, the 20 to 30%? And if so, how can Africa start having that conversation, Titus?
Yeah, let me say it's very true that renewable energy can boost agriculture production.
Yes.
And this is basically by using the renewable energy technologies, one being the cold storage.
That's it.
And also we have the solar powered irrigation systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe even in dry areas, maybe let's take a case like the Turkana, we can have solar powered irrigation systems and be able to come up with a very good plantations of maize in dry areas.
That's it.
So it's very true that renewable energy can assist in boosting up agriculture by even up to 300%.
That's it.
Yes.
Pretty much. Just what we take a tiny breather right here on the Morning Drift. Once we come back, there's still more conversations around this area. And I've told you this morning, there's just a lot of figures that you really have to synthesize this morning. Just this one, before we come back from this break, that Africa needs around $277 billion annually for climate action by 2030. That's according to a UNEP report that came out in 2023. But currently, just received around 30 billion, only 12% of the requirement, much of it as loans. Let's talk about that once we come back from this break on how Africa can even start unlocking equitable financing that does not worsen into debt crisis. Once we come back right here on the Morning Drift, we're still with Titus Ngeno, who is an author. We're going to speak about what is authored in this particular area once we come from this tiny breather. Good morning.
People are there to belittle you. When people are questioning you,
If you don't move fast, of course, yes, you lose it, but then it's not us to push you.
but you do not know the God who has been molding me, what has he been doing to me?
The deep and mature conversations of empowerment for you with a curious mind and an appetite for oriented conversations.
I concur with what you're saying.
You plan your finances, you can easily live without a debt.
An engaging safe space of free expression and truthfulness with an upheld vibrance, motivation and happiness.
So many children who are there, they are not living their dreams.
Join us for deep conversations with Zipporah Gashushe every Saturday from 8 p.m. The Deeper Conversations on Look Up TV.
Do you need a dose of hope? If so, you are in the right place. We think of ourselves around here as hope dealers, delivering truth, power, and inspiration to hearts and minds all over the world. If nothing else has worked for you, why not give the God thing a try? For it's in the presence of God that you'll find everything that you need. Amen.
For you to forgive someone who has hurt you. How easy is it? What are some tips, a person can apply to improve their public speaking skills?
We all have personality lazy somewhere around us.
In my mind, whenever I'm invited for a public speaking event, I don't like to put a lot of, accessories or too many colors.
What are the major things to look out when choosing a school for a child?
Another cheesy conversation starter is, men do this a lot. They look familiar. Have we met before? No. We met in
Nobody's buying that line again.
No, we don't. We don't buy it anymore.
Welcome back. We're still talking about renewable energy and where we are as a country and a continent. In as much as this conversation is concerned, we're into the last part of our conversation. If you have any other question, any contribution, you do know what to do. Directly talk to us. We shall talk back to you as well. Our numbers are right there on your screen. Titus, it's good to talk about this then, in terms of the financing. And I'd like us to approach it from this direction. It's true that Africa needs $277 billion annually. That's according to a UNEP report in 2023. Even indeed, it's going to achieve this by 2030. But currently as it is, it only receives about 30 billion annually. That's only around 12% of the requirement, much of it as loans. Question is going to be, how can Africa receive close to this 277 billion and sort of avoid getting into debt financing platforms?
So maybe what I can say is that Africa needs a blended financial models.
Yes.
Say that we have a regional financial structure that will be able to fund these Africa-related climate change issues. And how we achieve it is maybe by having a regional financial institutions.
Yes.
That will be able to negotiate and maybe assist in Africa-related climate change issues.
That's it.
And even currently we have, as I had highlighted before, we have African Green African Climate Bank, I think, and Afri-Exim Bank.
Yes.
So these are financial institutions that assist in ensuring that we have a clean energy transition. And even locally, I think local banks have rolled out some of the clean climate green funds, but that one scales up in only per country.
Yes.
Is a regional financing models. But as Africa, we need, so that we can achieve the 277 billion USD annually, we need to have a regional financial structures.
Pretty much. Let's talk about this then, how some countries are really trying to navigate that challenge of receiving funds. Kenya, in 2019, first raised, it is green bond worth $41 million US. I'll not go into Nigeria because it's interesting that when they raised it, and remember I reported on this particular one. Majority of people did not understand what a green bond was and what it was really essentially meant to do. And it's a good thing that you're here this morning so we can get to talk about it. This was raised by Econ Holdings that raised 4.3 billion Kenyan shillings to finance the construction, and this is why I sort of said, maybe we need a proper explanation on why it went to that direction specifically. Because when they raised 4.3 billion, it went into the financing and the construction of environmentally friendly student housing, meeting international greener building standards for energy, water, and construction materials. And this is what they said. It was the very first one to be certified in the country. It was one of a kind, all right? Titus, if it was the very first one in 2019, did you like where we pegged it toward? Was that the neediest part of our green energy expenditure?
What I can say is that perhaps it might not be the greenest energy part.
And by the way, it was pegged on the affordable housing agenda. If you do remember, that's when President Uhuru Kenyatta was really finding it difficult from Kenyans who said the affordable housing agenda is going to be on a voluntary basis. That's during that time when they said we are not paying for it, it's going to be on voluntary basis, when the courts had ruled that it's not supposed to be paid for from your paychecks. It's not mandatory. So they sort of found a way to go around it, Titus.
Okay, and maybe what I can say is, you see now, for affordable housing to be a green project, that means that the project itself must be 100% renewable. That means now we build the affordable housing and have maybe install have maybe solar panels on top of the affordable housing.
Yes.
Have even maybe have swimming pools, but it should be using solar.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, it will be 100% green.
Yes.
And I think if we move in that direction, I think it will be a green investment, yes.
Yes.
And maybe now the issue comes along with raising funds to ensure that we implement some of these green energy projects.
That's it.
Yes.
But here's what we're gonna look at as well this morning. Probably we need to go to that direction. You like to think that from 2019 to date, Titus, that this would have been the way to go, and this is why. Because if you look at the Finance Act of 2019, they granted a withholding tax exemption to green bonds, which was seen as a way to boost investor interest. But it looks as if it has not, Titus.
Yeah, I believe that we should have considered some other projects in renewable energy.
Yes.
Some of these key projects, because personally, let me say that I'm developing even some of the solar projects. We have 100 megawatt project in Narok.
Yes.
We have also 100 megawatt project in Isinya, and 140 megawatt solar project in Isiolo.
Yes.
And you see now, during the Africa Climate Summit 2023 in Nairobi, the government of Kenya approved the Isinya 100 megawatt solar project as part of it's a green investment,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So I believe that Kenya should have moved in a better direction by ensuring, you see now, policies is very important, key in attracting the investments. And now Kenya should have moved in a different direction by ensuring that, you see now, South Africa is, the generation capacity is at 6,000 megawatts. And this is because of the policies they have. They have a renewable energy investment with private-public partnership.
Yes.
So that has assisted them in ensuring that they develop these renewable energy projects. So Kenya should have moved in a different. I'm very well that maybe even affordable housing is one of the key agenda of the government of the day. I'm very sure, but we should also have it as a green investment, yes, but we should have also these renewable energy projects coming up. You see now what the problem we have Kenya at now, Ministry of Energy, there is an issue of, they came up with an energy policy that is energy auctions.
Yes.
Say that the energy auction policy has not been implemented. And for like 6 years now, there are no PPAs being issued out by Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority.
Yes.
The reason is that there are many project developers who want to develop these investments. But now when it comes to, you see now, at the end of the day, we need bankable projects. So that is what we lack as a country and as Africa.
That's it.
Because we lack bankable projects that can be developed. Even for our case, we have passed through the same issue, because I think we have a 40 megawatt project in Isiolo, which I was part of the project development. And this project, we actually get the PPA in 2019. And when it comes to getting the finances, all the permits, it takes time, because since from, I think, the project developers started this project from 2012.
Yes.
So you find also, I think developing these projects also requires a strong time frame and a strong dedication, because it takes time in developing. That is for my case, but in the African context, we also need bankable projects so that we are able to attract these investors to develop these renewable energy projects.
That's it. Yes. Pretty much. Let's talk about you then this morning as we keep on with our conversation. You've written 2 books. One is Renewable and Green Hydrogen in Africa, and the other one is Climate Change and Finance in Africa. What motivated you to focus on these 2 areas, and what gaps in Africa's climate and energy debate are you trying to highlight or feel for people to look at?
Maybe what I can say is that these 2 books are very critical in our current context, because now there's a lot of conversation of green hydrogen, and I'm quite sure that many people want to know what is this green hydrogen, what is renewable energy.
That's it.
Because many people doesn't understand. So I'm trying to fill that gap, or on ensuring that many people get to understand the opportunities that are there in renewable energy space, and also a green hydrogen. And I think even when as I consider the green hydrogen, I'm pretty sure, maybe I can just add some few insights that even though I've highlighted green hydrogen, we don't have green hydrogen alone. We also have blue hydrogen. We have gray hydrogen. And this all depends on the type of technologies that we are using in developing these the hydrogen generation.
That's it.
Yes.
If anybody is interested in these books, how can they get to learn on them?
So these books are available at Nuria Bookstore.
Yes.
And I think you can also contact me and order these books.
Fantastic. Good. So in your experience, even when you're writing these books, because in that you even highlight policy, in your experience in Titus, do you believe that every other person, even the general public, there's the public rhetoric that we need to move in this direction? Is there a disconnect between public rhetoric and policy and financing in energy and climate? Are we moving in the same direction? Somebody told me that if you go to school today, every parent knows exactly where financing is needed, and you can see the government pushing financing in that direction. When it comes to climate and energy conversations, do you believe that where we are pushing towards a government or a continent is where people who are actually going to support these projects want this money to go to Titus?
Yeah, the key critical issue is that when it comes to the financing being directed towards where the opportunity is, there are some key factors that are being considered. One is, especially in renewable energy projects, they consider the bankability of the project.
Yes.
And now, let's take even a case for the Kenyan context. You see now, the electrification of Kenya, starting from Turkana all the way to the coastal region and even to the Nyanza region. When you look at the electrification of the Kenya as a country, we have quite challenges, and these challenges are in a scenario whereby a developer cannot develop a project maybe on maybe the western region.
Yes.
You see, western region, we have a problem of electrification. And that is why recently I saw Ministry of Energy wants to develop a nuclear plant in Nyanza region. And the reason is there is a problem with electrification in western Kenya. So a genuine reason is that even though we have concentrated our power to the national grid at Suswa, Kenya still have a challenge in ensuring that we have in electrifying the western region. So when a project developer comes up with a project, maybe in Narok, for example, or maybe a geothermal project, the Ministry of Energy will easily approve a project. Why? Because that energy is needed to energize the western region.
Yes, I say that. Yes. And do you feel that indeed that's the conversation that we need to have as a country, that we need to have a proper study of some of these projects that are needed in these areas where we essentially want to come up with them? It's the same thing that you're saying, that it won't make sense then for you to take that plant in the western part of the country because there's an electrification program over that side as well. Something that happened, I know when we're talking about green energy, I should mention this, but it's just a good example of how the northern part of the country, when we found oil, majority of people were opposed to the mining of oil in that area because they said there are still things that we need to be done in this area before you guys come in and start mining this oil. We still need proper water access, proper electricity before you come in and give us this kind of infrastructure. Is that where the conversation should be, despite what our national plan around green energy should be?
Okay, let me say for like a case for the national, the oil plant in Turkana, yes, to be precise. The oil plant in Turkana is very, very important. And you see now, the plan was we have this crude oil from Turkana and export it to the Lapset project to Lamu port. From that Lamu port, it will be still export as crude oil to be refined outside the country. Then it will come back refined.
Yes.
We don't have the capitation for the Mombasa oil refinery. So the oil from Turkana, we export it directly as crude oil. Then it will be refined outside the country. Then it will come back to the country refined. So we still, as a country, even we have challenges also in the energy system.
That's it.
But we need that Turkana oil. It's very important.
Yes.
Because it will boost our economy as a country.
That's it. Titus, when I was doing research around this particular topic, I found that targets around green energy, renewable energy, green hydrogen, I found that they are usually set by these international bodies. This morning, I've just gone through a lot. I mean, you're looking at UNEP setting targets, you're looking at AU setting targets, you're looking at reports about our country that are not generated locally, you know? And there is one as well. AU also are set targets in 2023. I sort of felt that there was a disconnect with these targets and what is essentially going on the ground in this African nation. For example, when UN comes in and says that the continent needs 90 billion USD by 2030, if it's going to reach these targets of green energy production, in that, how much does Kenya need? How much does Tanzania need? How much does Ethiopia need? These reports and targets that are getting generated by these international bodies, do you feel that we should be reading about Kenyan targets so that then these international bodies can feed into the local targets, Titus?
Maybe what I can say is that the regional targets, that is the African reporting, that is the target reports that are from the international bodies.
Yes.
It's based on the resources availability.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come to each country, you
Yes.
find that each country also has some resource challenges. Not all countries has these resources. But when it comes to the renewable energy part, you find that the northern part of Kenya is like now the case of Morocco, because it's on northern part of Kenya, they have a high solar insolation.
That's it.
So the resource is quite enough. in developing these renewable energy projects. But now also, like, let's take a case for like South Africa. They are a power generating company called Eskom.
Yes.
They have a coal plant which is powering like 60% of the country's national grid. And it's the same scenario with the the global north. They have a lot of fossil fuel power generation, and these fossil fuels generate a lot of carbon emission, right? And they still insist that they are transitioning to renewable energy. Even if carbon credit is there still as a regional issue or carbon trading, those countries need to ensure that they have policies that shuts down the use of fossil fuel plants and transition to having renewable energy generation.
Yes. From where you seated this morning, Titus, and you've written about this, what would you say would be your top policy recommendation for a country like Kenya that is really trying to chart its way through green hydrogen for quick adoption? What would you recommend?
So it's basically having the right policies.
Yes.
And maybe the government should champion these policies to ensure that they are implemented. You see, as a country, we can have the right policies. But when there's no government intervention in ensuring that we have a strong timelines to complete these projects, we will never have these projects implemented.
That's it.
So we must have the right policies and have also government intervention to ensuring that we set targets and ensure that we achieve all these targets by even 2050.
Yes, and I should ask, but since we're talking about this particular conversation, we've seen what the governments have been pushing in this country, especially when it comes to adoption of green energy. That is the last mile rural electrification program. Do you think that as a country, when you're stressing on that agenda alone, probably as the energy ministry in this country, then you're sort of running away from also, dividing that cake with other areas like green hydrogen?
Because you see, we are trying to centralize this renewable energy system. That means irrespective of the source of these renewable energy systems, we still have to centralize. We have a national grid that will be able to absorb all these renewable energy system, irrespective of the source.
That's it.
Whether it is wind energy, whether it's hydro energy, whether it's geothermal energy, we are trying to centralize these renewable energy resources with an aim of decarbonization, right? And these resources will be used in electrification.
Yes.
But now we need to balance the electrification system so that we don't concentrate too much renewable energy resources into one region. So as a country, we need to balance the electrification system.
That's it.
Yes, so that you find that maybe even we had problems in, I think, 2023, where there were power blackouts in the country.
Yes.
And this was because of the power tripping of the Turkana wind. You see, the Turkana wind power generates a lot of power. That is 300 megawatts. So imagine that power generation trips out in the national grids. It means that the whole country will have blackouts.
That's it.
So we need to balance. Even a case, you see, there is a conversation or a narrative of that these wind energy systems are intermittent. They need the national grid to survive, because a daily generation needs also, you must have a hybrid system.
That's it.
Like also you have another alternative source of power.
Yes.
Like a case for solar, you can make a hybrid system, like have a solar power plant and maybe integrate maybe with a diesel. Let's take a case for Wajir. There's a time, I think it was 2023, I visited Wajir. We were having, we were going to have studies on a solar plant, a 5 megawatt solar plant. So when we reached there, you find a lot of locals. They are complaining that they have problems in energy. There is power blackouts. There are a lot of issues when it comes to them accessing the energy. And we found out that there are existing diesel plants. So even I think in Marsabit, there is an hybrid system whereby you come up with a diesel plant, you hybrid it with the solar plant.
Yes.
So that it will become, it becomes continuous, so that it cannot become intermittent. So as a country, we need to make sure also we plan our electrification system well.
Yes, yes, pretty much. And you only have 15 seconds to respond to this, because I'm getting told that we gotta get out of the studio now. Do you feel that Africa in general has extended a partnership with the private sector so that this doesn't become a government conversation by itself, so that the private sector also plays a big role in the green hydrogen conversations? 15 seconds, Titus.
So I think that is quite important, and maybe Africa should ensure that we have a blended financial models to ensure that even private-public partnerships comes in and ensure that we implement all these projects in ensuring that we transition to clean energy transition.
Yes, pretty much. Oof. You know what? Every time I have these conversations, it looks like it's only 15 minutes down the line. But guess what? We're going to end this conversation this morning. And if you want to contribute and have any suggestion, then you can talk to us online and Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. Titus, thank you very much for making time for us this morning, sir.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to having you again. We end it here. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. We're online and Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. I'll see you tomorrow for another conversation. Good morning and goodbye.